Samsy. Oh, story time with Dora. Where are we at? Oh, that's right. We're doing Journey to the Center of the Earth. We on Chapter 9, Part 2. I know I thought we was going to get done, but we didn't. All right, we in Dora. We on Highway 211, and we heading into the Needles District. And that little photo at the opening there was the little campsite. So we'll try to get back to this story here so we can get a little further. And we are Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now, last time when we left off, Hans, the guide, Harry, and the professor were making their way on horseback. Well, at least the two were on horseback. Hans, he's just not going to ride any kind of horse for no kind of reason. So anyway, Harry and the professor were on horseback, and they get to the water's edge, and you know, the professor, he is just like, I need to get there. He is in a hurry, so he's trying to make his horse go into the ocean to swim across the fjord there, and the horse is like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So out comes the whipcord, and he's the guy that said you must not ever challenge a Icelandic horse. You let them do their thing. That's what he says, and then he does this, right? Okay, so this damage. Oh, let's just get started then. I guess we'll just go from there. Oh, this drive here. Let's talk a little bit about this drive. So from US 491 there, you jump on this 211 thing, and it's paved all the way into Needles, and then around into Needles is paved too. So it's really nice for any kind of vehicle. And you know, you'd think, oh boy, this is kind of a small road to get in here, but you see the big old tour buses in here, so not to worry, you know. All right, so, Newspaper Rock. Yeah, we'll be coming up to Newspaper Rock, and maybe they got somebody there that can read this book, because I just seem to be looking at the drive. All right, let's begin here with, we're going to pick it up where he was giving his horse the business. This demonstration of rebellion was followed by a volley of words and a stout application of whipcord, also followed by kicks on the part of the horse, which threw his head and heels upwards and tried to throw his rider. At length, the sturdy little pony, spreading out his legs in a stiff and ludicrous attitude, got from under the professor's legs and left him standing, with both feet on a separate stone, like the Colossus of Rhodes. Wretched animal! Cried my uncle, suddenly transformed into a foot passenger, as angry and ashamed as a dismounted cavalry officer on the field of battle. Farja, said the guide, tapping him familiarly on the shoulder. What, a ferry boat? Der, answered Hans, pointing to where lay the boat in question. There. Well, I cried. Well, what was that? Oh, Dora. This little Dora here, this is this little camper van, this little Winnebago Travato 59 KL National Park Edition. No, the National Park Edition just means that it's got a couple of extra little graphics on it, but it did have a bigger battery bank as well. So it's been pretty darn good, you know. No generator to run. It just charges up this really good size battery bank. I think it's almost 12 kilowatts. So if you don't know, it don't matter, and if you do know, you'll be like, damn, that's quite a bit. So 48 volt, and We just have never ever run into a situation where we even need to run the vehicle. But of course, with a little van, you're not staying anywhere for a long time. And I wish people. Okay, no, I'm not going to go down that road. But they're not for living in. Okay, and if there's more than one person in one of those things, okay, that's going to be tough. It's got to be short. Okay, here we go. "Der," answered Hans, and he pointed to where there was a boat. "Well," I cried, quite delighted with the information, "so it is." "Why did you not say so before?" cried my uncle. "Why not start at once?" "Tidvatten," said the guide. "What does he say?" I asked, considerably puzzled by the delay and the dialogue. "He says tide," replied my uncle, translating the Danish word for my information. "Of course, I understand. We must wait till the tide serves." "Forbidda?" asked my uncle. "Ja," replied Hans. My uncle frowned, stamped his feet, and then followed the horses to where the boat lay. I thoroughly understood and appreciated the necessity for waiting. Before crossing the ford, for that moment when the sea at its highest point is in a state of slack water, as neither the ebb nor flow can then be felt, the ferry boat was in no danger of being carried out to sea or dashed upon the rocky coast. The favorable moment did not come until 6 o'clock in the evening. Then my uncle, myself, and guide, 2 boatmen, and the 4 horses got into a very awkward, flat-bottomed boat. Accustomed as I had been to the steam ferry boats of Elbe, I found the long oars of the boatmen but sorry means of locomotion. We were more than an hour in crossing the fjord, but at length the passage was concluded without incident. Half an hour later we reached Gardar. Oh, there's chapter 9 in the book. I knew we was going to get through that sucker today. All right, let's just take a peekaboo here and see where we's at. Oh, isn't that just so pretty down there? I am really going to have to go back there and spend some quality time around Newspaper Rock and getting some good video and some good pictures, because Dom, that's kind of a Van Damme situation. Ha ha. All right, chapter 9 in the books. So chapter 10, here's how it looks. Traveling in Iceland. The lepers, Leperers, lepers. Huh. Well, let's just talk about that. It ought, one would have thought, to have been night, even in the 65th parallel of latitude. But still, the nocturnal illumination did not surprise me. For in Iceland, during the months of June and July, the sun never sets. The temperature, however, was very much lower than I expected. It was cold, but even that did not affect me so much as ravenous hunger. Welcome indeed, therefore, was the hut which hospitality opened its doors to us. It was merely the house of a peasant, but in the matter of hospitality it was worthy of being the palace of a king. As we alighted at the door, the master of the house came forward, held out his hand, and without any further ceremony signaled us to follow him. We followed him, for to accompanying him was impossible. A long, narrow, gloomy passage led into the interior of this habitation, made from beams roughly squared by the axe. This passive gave in passage. This passage gave ingress to every room. The chambers were 4 in number: the kitchen, the workshop, where the weaving was carried on, the general sleeping chamber of the family, and the best room, to which strangers were especially invited. My uncle, whose lofty structure had not been taken into consideration when the house was built, contrived to knock his head against the beams of the roof. He like Gulliver. Yeah, that's so pretty down there. Boy, I gotta get back there. Yep, I gotta get back there. It's a good time of the year to go, too. I'm gonna go. We were introduced into our chamber, a kind of large room with a hard earthen floor and lighted by a window, the panes of which were made of a sort of parchment from the intestines of sheep, very far from transparent. Yikes. The bedding was composed of dry hay thrown into 2 long red wooden boxes, ornamented with sentences painted in Icelandic. I really had no idea that we should be made so comfortable. There was one objection to the house, and that was the very powerful odor of dried fish, of macerated meat, and of sour milk, which 3 fragrances combined did not at all suit my olfactory nerves. As soon as we had freed ourselves from our heavy traveling costume, the voice of our host was heard calling to us to come into the kitchen, the only room in which the Icelanders ever make any fire, no matter how cold it may be. My uncle, nothing loth, hastened to obey his hospitable and friendly invitation. I followed. The kitchen chimney was made on an antique model. A large stone standing in the middle of the room was the fireplace. Above, in the roof, was a hole for the smoke to pass through. This apartment was kitchen, parlor, and dining room all in one. On our entrance, our worthy host, as if he had not seen us before, advanced ceremoniously, uttered a word which means, "Be happy," and then kissed both of us on the cheek. His wife followed, pronounced the same word, with the same ceremonial. Then the husband and wife, placing their right hands upon their hearts, bowed profoundly. This excellent Icelandic woman was the mother of 19 children. Let me get that one again here. This excellent Icelandic woman was the mother of 19 children, who, little and big, rolled, crawled, and walked about in the midst of volumes of smoke arising from the regular fireplace in the middle of the room. Every now and then I could see a fresh white head and a slightly melancholy expression of countenance peering at me through the vapor. Let me get this, 19 kids. Let me do the math on that time now. I mean, there's got to be, a week or 2 in between? Wow. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, peering at me through the vapor. But they're Icelandic women, so I mean, they 19, 25, no problemo. No problemo. But my uncle and myself, however, were very friendly with the whole party, and before we were aware of it, You know what, guys? This is a good spot. Thank you so much for coming along. Next time, I guarantee we'll get a little further. We'll probably even get to the campsite next time. All right. Sam C. And we'll leave you with just a little bit of big old Rosie.